If you've ever gone to an art museum, you may notice that there were very few female artists. Throughout history, the idea of a woman having artistic abilities was inconceivable, but that did not stop women from pursuing art. Here are the top 10 female artists. Number 10. Margaret Keane is an American artist who you may recognize from the Tim Burton film Big Eyes. She mainly painted waifish women, children, or animals with noticeably large eyes. After leaving her first husband with her daughter, she met an artist named Walter Keane and married him in 1955. Walter started taking credit for Margaret's art and forced her to overwork herself. Margaret eventually left Walter with her daughter and moved to Hawaii in 1964. A year later, Margaret decided to go to court and have a paint-off with Walter, where she won credit to her artwork. Number 9. Guan Dao Shang was born in Huzhou, China in 1262. Growing up, Guan Dao Shang displayed exceptional talent and intelligence. Her father thought very highly of her and named her Guan Dao Shang, which translates directly to Way of Righteousness Rising as the Sun. At age 24, she married Zhao Mengfu, who was considered the greatest artist during the Yuan period. Guan Dao Shang painted things like bamboo and landscapes which were considered masculine, and also combined calligraphy and poetry with her art. She is credited with being the most famous female painter and calligrapher in Chinese history. Guan Dao Shang eventually died in 1319 at the age of 58. After her death, her husband mainly painted bamboo to keep her memory. Number 8. Helena of Egypt was an active fresco painter during 4th century BC in Egypt. Unfortunately, there is not much known about her, but we do know that she was taught how to paint by her father, Timon. Helena mostly worked and painted a scene from Alexander the Great's life after he died in 323 BC. Helena's only recorded piece is The Battle of Issus, which shows Alexander defeating Darius III during the Battle of Issus. However, there are other frescoes by unknown artists that researchers believe to be made by Helena, but right now there is not enough evidence to confirm it. Number 7. Frida Kahlo was born in 1907 in Mexico City, Mexico. She spent most of her life in La Casa Azul, which is now known as the Frida Kahlo Museum. As a child, Frida contracted polio and became disabled. Despite her disability, Frida proved to be an amazing artist. When she got older, she planned to go to medical school until she got into a bus crash in 1925 at the age of 18. This crash would cause her pain for the rest of her life. During her recovery, Frida started painting again and daydreamed about becoming an artist. Later, in 1929, she married artist Diego Rivera. Over her lifetime, Frida had her art exhibited in many galleries and museums. During one of her exhibitions, Frida was too sick to attend, but she ordered for an ambulance to take her and move her stretcher into the gallery. Frida Kahlo had her first solo exhibition before she died in 1954 at the age of 47. Number 6. Elizabeth Louise Vigée Lebrun was born in 1755 in Paris, France. As a child, Elizabeth painted any surface that was available, even the walls. Her father, who was a pastel artist, taught her how to paint. However, he died when Elizabeth was only 12. Fortunately, he had taught Elizabeth enough to start a career as an artist. At the age of 15, Elizabeth started painting commissions, and at the age of 19, she became a member of the Académie de Saint-Luc. In 1774, Elizabeth married an art dealer, Jean-Baptiste Pierre Lebrun. Elizabeth started showing in salons and hotels, and eventually turned her home into an exhibition space. When she was 24, Elizabeth painted Queen Marie Antoinette's portrait and became the Queen's favorite painter and one of her closest friends. In 1783, Elizabeth became one of the very few female members of the distinguished Royal Academy of Painting and Sculpture. In 1789, the French monarchy was overthrown, and Queen Marie Antoinette, King Louis XVI, and many court members were executed. During this time, Elizabeth fled to France in fear of being executed too. Elizabeth eventually returned to France 12 years later, where she would die in 1842 at the age of 86. Number 5. Lavinia Fontana was born in Bologna, Italy in 1552 during the Renaissance. At the time, women were only allowed to become artists if they had artists in their families, so Lavinia was very lucky that her father was a master painter. Women were not allowed to study models either, so Lavinia learned how to draw anatomy from nude sculptures. She started her career by painting portraits of wealthy women in Bologna and impressed everyone by the amount of detail she put into her paintings. In 1603, Lavinia was invited to Rome by Pope Clement VIII, and she became an official painter of the papal court. Lavinia was mostly commissioned to paint mythical or historical subjects and became the first woman in the Western world to publicly paint commissions of nudes. During her lifetime, Lavinia was one of the most successful female painters. Lavinia died in 1614, having painted over 100 portraits. Number 4. Rosa Bonhoir was born in 1822 in Bordeaux, France. Her father was a landscape painter who encouraged Rosa to pursue art. Rosa had a hard time learning to read, but she would draw for hours before she could even learn to talk. Rosa loved animals, so her mother taught her to read by having Rosa draw an animal for each letter of the alphabet. Rosa was very disruptive in school and was expelled several times. She failed as an apprentice seamstress, so her father helped her develop a career as an artist. Rosa's father helped her study anatomy of animals by bringing live animals to the studio. At the age of 14, Rosa began copying paintings at the Louvre. Rosa was eventually commissioned by the French government, which led to her first great success in her career. During adulthood, Rosa mainly wore men's clothing and had to fill out a permit every 6 months to get permission to wear men's clothing in public. Rosa was also an openly queer woman and had a relationship with an American painter, Anna Elizabeth Klump. And at the time, lesbianism was considered barbaric, so Rosa's outspokenness about it was unheard of as well as groundbreaking. Rosa died at the age of 77 in 1899 as a successful artist. Number 3. Mary Edmonia Lewis was born in America sometime in between 1842 and 1854. Most of her childhood was spent in Newark, New Jersey. When Mary was 9, both of her parents died, so she and her older brother Samuel were taken in and adopted by her 2 maternal aunts. Mary helped her aunts by selling things like Ojibwe baskets, moccasins, and embroidered blouses to tourists. Mary eventually became economically privileged when her brother became rich during the California gold rush and was able to, quote-unquote, fulfill her every wish. After college, Mary moved to Boston in 1864. She began working as a sculptor after she encountered a bust of Benjamin Franklin and didn't know who it was, but insisted that she could make a stone man herself. Mary eventually met a sculptor, Edward Augustus Brackett, who taught her how to make clay sculptures. Mary then moved on to make busts of abolitionists and Union soldiers, which she sold for up to $15 apiece. In 1876, Mary made her most famous sculpture, The Death of Cleopatra. This sculpture shocked viewers with Mary's portrayal of death. Mary eventually died in 1907 at the age of 63, having made 14 full sculptures and busts. Number 2. Sarah Biffin was born in 1784 in Somerset, England, to a family of farmers. Sarah was born with phocomelia, which caused her to have no arms and undeveloped legs. Although Sarah was extremely disabled, she learned to read and write and paint with her mouth. During a portion of her lifetime, Sarah took part in freak shows and circuses, but eventually started a career in painting, and during this time she held exhibitions, sold paintings and autographs, and made money off of admission fees. However, Sarah may have received as little as €5 one year when she was under the apprenticeship of Emmanuel Dukes. Sarah eventually died at the age of 66 in 1850. Number 1. Artemisia Gentileschi was born in Rome in July of 1593. Her father, Orazio Gentileschi, was a painter from Pisa. Artemisia was solely raised by her father after the death of her mother in 1605. It was likely this time that Artemisia started painting. Much like her father, Artemisia took inspiration from Italian master Caravaggio. In 1611, Artemisia's father began working with Agostino Tassi, who visited the household and raped Artemisia when the two of them were alone. Artemisia's friend Tuzia was also present during the rape but refused to help her. Artemisia was expected to marry Agostino, but 9 months after the assault, Orazio pressed charges against Agostino. During the 7th-month trial, Artemisia was accused of lying and was tortured with thumbscrews. Agostino was eventually exiled from Rome after it was found out that he was planning to murder his wife. Art historians believe that Artemisia coped with her assault by painting herself as powerful female protagonists from biblical stories. Artemisia Gentileschi died in 1656 at 63 years old. There are so many amazing female artists that it was hard to choose just 10. Let me know which of these artists were your favorite or you found the most interesting, or if you want me to make a solo video on a specific artist I mentioned. Thank you for watching my video and see you next Friday. Bye!